Hey, welcome back to the Inspire Hope podcast, where we are planting hope for kingdom growth. There is nothing more inspiring than God being at work in people's lives through their story. We are Samuel
and Rachel, and we are the hosts of this podcast.
Hey, Rachel, this week's episode, I have one of my dear friends, Julie. Her husband, Bill, and I went to Haiti, so I know them really well. Julie went through a period of her lives that I think, Rachel, you're going to relate to a lot. And I think other people who are listening to this podcast will relate to. So I am so excited, Rachel, for us to be able to air out this episode.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I heard her story so many times. I felt like I was the one saying it. So I can't wait either. And then we're going to return after that to share lessons that we've learned from the story and offer some application and Bible verses that will help you apply it to your life too.
Hello everyone, my name is Julie Martin and here's my story. I was born and raised in the province of Quebec in a French family of 3 children. When I was very young, I had the privilege to be in a Christian environment for 5 short years. Unfortunately, when I was about 9 years old, having been disappointed and hurt by men, my parents made the choice to walk away from the church and the Lord altogether. From them on, I was raised and living a normal, worldly life. It was a drastic change. My teenage years were filled with challenges, hard ones. But despite the challenges, one can say that I was a good girl, but I was a broken girl. When I was 20 years old, I was very excited to leave home for an adventurous life. I left Quebec and came to Alberta. I wanted to work here in order to travel, learn English, live the life, to be free. Following my heart and some wrong influences, I sadly made a lot of wrong decisions. Enjoying life, but too often in an unhealthy way. Few years passed and God was knocking at the door of my heart. Something in the Christian life was intriguing and attracting to me. So sometime in 1996, I started to declare that I was a Christian and began to go to church. In September 1998, after dating for 5 years, Bill and I became husband and wife. We were excited to finally be Mr. and Mrs. Martin, living our new life as a married couple. But the honeymoon bliss didn't last for very long. 1 month after getting married, I was involved in a serious bike accident. I was urgently sent to the ER in a semi-coma state with a skull fracture and internal head bleeding. That same day, I had an urgent open head surgery to fix me all up. Several weeks later, after extensive testing, I received my diagnosis. I had suffered from brain damage, and I was immediately referred to a rehabilitation program. My accident drastically changed my life. I was now having important problems with my concentration, memory loss, divided attention, learning abilities, processing information, and suffering from drastic fatigue. I felt as if I woke up one day in a body that wasn't mine. As if I was 2 people now, Julie the body and Julie the soul. I felt lost and trapped in a body that I no longer knew. I could no longer take anything for granted. Each day had to be carefully planned. Being in perfect health otherwise, I wasn't showing any outward signs of my injuries. So therefore, I felt misunderstood and very alone. I was now living with an important but invisible disability. About a month after my accident, alone that one night in bed, I came to the realization that I had almost died. Almost died. That was a very scary thought for me. I started to shake and cry because I had no idea where I would have gone if I would have died that day. No idea. The uncertainty and fear of the unknown scared me to my core. I had taken Jesus and his gifts of salvation very lightly and never really addressed the question seriously. At that very moment, I started to remember some biblical teaching I had received over the years. All the puzzle pieces were coming together. It was beautiful. I understood I was a sinner and that there were no place in heaven for me as I was. I believed that Jesus was the Son of God and accepting his gift that he came to die for me. By doing so, he was taking all of my punishment for all of my sin, from my past, present, and even future, making me clean in the eyes of God. Lying in my bed, very much aware that I wasn't deserving Him, I humbly asked Him for the forgiveness of my sin and that I wanted to give Him my life. I did not have all the answers and understood everything that night, but I did know I was a child of God. It was glorious. A year passed and I thought I could achieve anything with my drive, my willpower, and my positive attitude. But after many relapses, after trying and pushing myself too hard, I finally understood I had to stop fighting, as I was not in control nor the boss of my body or my life. God was. My focus had to change. I had to concentrate on all the good things I had left and stop focusing or dwelling on all the things I had lost and may never get. I had reached a crosswalk where I had to accept my new reality. I found myself mourning for the Julie I once knew. I found myself at 29 and my whole world had fallen apart. So many questions were coming to my mind. Will I ever be able to have children? What about my dreams and my ambitions? A very powerful verse helped me greatly. I had made a poster out of it and put it on my bedroom wall. I would read it every morning as I step out of bed and every chance I had. This verse is often taken too lightly, but please consider it. Matthew 6:34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I was holding on to God's promises, soaking myself in His teaching. I was learning that God allows trials and tribulation to the benefit of our own growth, to build our character for our good and ultimately His glory. I had to give Him thanks in everything because He had a perfect plan for me in that He loves me with perfect love. The cross had shown me that. Protesting and complaining of the painful circumstances He was using to make me grow would only slow the work that He was trying to do in me. 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptation has seized you except that is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can stand up under it. Even though I was suffering, I decided to let go. I was choosing joy. The years were passing by and I kept getting better. Not by much, and very slowly, but better. God was doing a miracle in my physical life and in my soul. It's been over 22 years now since I had my head injury. I'm still suffering from fatigue and neurological problems, and that reality would be with me for the rest of my life. I do believe, however, that through life, God always gives us exactly what we need. I do. Granted, it doesn't always look that way, but He eventually always turns everything for our good. Always. He doesn't waste anything. No pain, no tears. He takes the good, the bad, and the ugly and always turn it for good, for our good, and ultimately for His glory. Always. When I stop and think of what God has done for me over the years, or what Christ had to go through for me, for my salvation, it's overwhelming. It really is. It's glorious in every way. We are to take the focus off of our lives, away from us. God is sovereign over everything. He wants for us to trust Him and His will in our lives, to rest in His love, His promises, but mainly to focus and rest in Him because of who He is. Thank you.
You know what, Rachel, as I'm listening to this story, I feel like as you were saying at the beginning, like it is you sharing that story to us. I believe a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken, you went through a similar accident. Okay, so walk me through what was going on in your head when you finally wake up from your accident. Okay, your head injury accident. So were you mad? Were you frustrated? What kind of questions that were? I'm shooting a lot of questions at you because I know you went through similar situation. So what kind of questions came to mind when you finally wake up and realize this is a different ritual? This is not the same ritual that I knew. It's like Julie said in her story. It seems like there is a Julie the body and Julie the soul. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, it's I think there's a point that everybody post-concussion syndrome hits where you realize part of you has died. Like, part that you knew really well and could function is done. And sometimes your mind still thinks that you can do all those old things and wants to get going and wants to move on with life. And your soul is almost processing it ahead of time, and your body is trapped. You're stuck like years behind. All of a sudden, I guess in one way to say it, you feel like a 90-year-old in a 30-year-old mind, and you don't know what to do. It's definitely a period of learning surrender and wrestling through that with the Lord. Questions of, am I going to get better when there's no guarantees? What am I going to do if I can't? What if I can't work? Like Julie said, what if I can't have kids? Like, all those major life questions and the daily process that we kind of take for granted is all of a sudden put it on a platter before you, going, which one am I going to be able to pick up and which ones am I not?
Yeah, yeah. As I was listening to Julie's story, she mentioned like she just got married, right? Just got married, and the honeymoon didn't last that long because she got into a car accident, which remind me, like, some, as you just said, we take life for granted sometimes, right? We wake up in the morning, you grab your car and you grab your coffee and you just take off to go to work. You don't plan about, today I'm gonna get into a car accident and my life gonna turn out to be this way and that way, right? Like, did you feel like Julie was saying, did you feel like at some point in life, did you feel like there is ritual the body and ritual the soul? And how do you come together to bring those two together and still be happy with God?
There's a verse or a passage in so I think it's 2 Corinthians 5, that talks about kind of your body dying and your soul looking to heaven and to a new body and a new glorified spirit. And that's so true, especially in this circumstance when you're processing it and you're angry, like you're wrestling and you're mad that your body's just not working. Like, you're young, you've got all this potential ahead of you and you're stuck. And I think you have to come to terms with that passage of, okay, how do I move my soul forward? Your body is dying, but your spirit's being renewed day by day. How do you choose to move your spirit forward regardless of the state of your body, and come to Christ with that and just say, okay, Lord, like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. So how do I move past that? How do I grieve the loss of my body, in a sense, and move forward in my soul towards you? And I love how Julie shared 1 Corinthians 10:13, that every temptation is common to man, but God always provides a way of escape. And you can get stuck in the fear and get crippled by the fact that you don't know what tomorrow holds. You don't know what your body's going to do, how it's going to react, if it's going to be a good day or a bad day. But you can choose to lay it aside and set the temptation down and just say, Lord, you are enough. You are my strength. I'm not going to be worried about this day. Like she said in Matthew 6, I'm going to just choose to take moment by moment, sometimes minute by minute at times, with you, because that's all I can handle.
Yeah. So during that time, Rachel, what did you learn about God's character that you can hold on to? Like, for instance, you relate so well with Julie's story. So if somebody's listening, okay, maybe they went through a concussion, or maybe they went through a car accident. Maybe it's not a head injury, but it's an injury that they cannot work properly the way they used to. They feel like there's the soul and there's the body who is different now. So what is about God's character that you learn that you're still holding on to right now?
Oh, so much. I think one of the biggest ones, kind of similar to what Julie was saying, is he's sovereign.
Mm.
Like, regardless of what happens, because the thing is, you can live in fear of hitting your head again. The possibilities are so big that you could trip and fall, you could get in another accident. You could choose to live in a bubble and never leave your house and hope that nothing happens. Or you can choose to step day by day and just trust the Lord. And I think that is huge is showing, okay, Rachel, I am sovereign. I am Lord over your life. I love you. I am good, but I am trustworthy. And learning to put that dependency more fully on Christ and say, okay, I'm going to trust you with my life and with this day and with this hour, because I don't know. I have to be dependent on you. I have to learn to live every moment under your counsel and your sovereignty versus my own control. And there's a wrestling of that takes place as well. As you're wrestling your body and your soul, you're also wrestling, am I going to choose that he is good and that he is trustworthy? And am I going to walk in that?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be angry at him and sit in this?
Yeah.
Which if you do long term, like I said, it's crippling, because that is fear
Yeah.
allowing to take over in anger.
Yeah. You know what? You use the word trust, trustworthy. And I bet there are some people kind of like, seriously? What I'm going through now, I don't see I can trust God. Or you use the word that he is good, right? Most of the time when things happen in our lives, something bad, we kind of like, I don't think God is good. I don't think he cares about me. So how do you relate those two? Something bad happened in your life, and you said, okay, I'm gonna still trust you, God, because you are good. How do you relate those two?
I think it kind of reminds me of the episode we did with your story, Sammy, about your sister passing away. And I think one of the most profound prayers you can have in situations like that is, God, where are you? Show me where you are. And then he loves to reveal that. When we choose to set ourselves down and just say, okay, I don't get this, but I'm going to choose to believe that you are good because your word says that you're good. So show me how you are. And God loves to give good gifts. Like he loves giving his Holy Spirit. And through that, he opens our spiritual eyes to be able to see those things that he's doing. And the more he does that, the more you realize how good he is. Because even though those circumstances don't seem good in our humans' state and mind, they are holding so much value, because through suffering is where we actually grow. It's where we build that relationship with Jesus. And like Julie ending up realizing, what is life and what is death? Like, what happens if I die? Where am I going? And asking those hard questions actually leads us towards the goodness of God, to say, I choose Jesus because he is everything. And I want to know that when I die, I am with him. And in my own life, I want to have that good relationship. So, Lord, I want to trust you. Help me to trust you. I want you to believe you're good. Show me that you're good. And the Lord will always prove himself. Yeah. It's just having our eyes open and being willing to look to see where he's working.
Yeah. This is why I'm so excited that we are doing this podcast together, because we need stories like yours, Rachel, like Julie's, because these are the stuff that happens to in people's lives. Like people get into car accidents, or people lose loved ones, and people lose their jobs. We live in a broken world with broken people. We need this. We need Jesus to save us. So thank you so much, Rachel. Do you have any other words that you would like to encourage anybody who might be going through that now, or going through it right now? Like maybe they just came back from a car accident or kind of sickness. They are not the same anymore. What would be, if you can just sit down with them right now, what would be one word or two words you would tell them to encourage them?
Don't lose hope. Hold on to hope, because he is good and he will help you through this. It may not be what you want in your own mind, but it'll be better in the long run.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. We didn't plan to interview you, but your story really relate to Julie. And again, thank you to Julie, and thank you to you, Rachel. Hey, thank you all for joining us at Inspire Hope. If this podcast has inspired you and added value to you, would you mind leaving a review and recommending the podcast to your friends and family? It would mean a lot to us. And hey, if you want to share your story with us, you can email us at inspirehopepodcast@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day, everyone. And remember, your story can inspire someone today. And till next time.